I'm the person who has seen this show before.
I'm a person who's never watched an anime.
HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. Bling, bling. Hello, this is the UN.
Hello, I am a representative from Japan Heavy, creators of the Jet Alone. You may have heard of us. Actually, I have something to report.
Yes, go ahead. What is it?
We actually have a skyscraper-sized mech barreling towards old Tokyo again, and it is filled with another nuclear reactor. Could you guys do something about that?
Oh, no worries, no worries. Nerve is actually on top of it this time.
No, not Nerve.
No, they actually already dispatched Ava units to go ahead and stop it in its tracks. And Misato was actually nice enough to jump back in and, shut the whole thing down. Again!
Those women, they shouldn't be capable of this.
Sounds like they are. Anyways, have fun with Jet Alone 3 if you're able to build it, because you're probably bankrupt. Goodbye. Boop, boop, boop. Hey, hello, and welcome back to the HiroBabble podcast. We actually kind of got hijacked a little bit there. It sounds like we heard in on a call between the UN and the creators of the Jet Alone. So anyways, sorry about that, but back to your regularly scheduled programming. I'm Michael.
And I'm Spexo.
Spexo?
Yeah.
Or Spenso?
That's my mech name.
Oh, Spexo.
The Specs Alone.
Specs Alone Mark III.
Yes.
They just received funding from an unknown investor. All we know is his name is Spencer. So, is that why they're naming it the Spenso 1? Exactly.
Yes.
That would be kind of cool, though. You just swoop in. We're going to put 2 nuclear reactors in it.
That's right.
And no people again.
Right. No people and no fail-safes this time.
Yeah. We couldn't afford the fail-safes because of the second nuclear reactor.
Yep.
Ugh, you hate to see it, but yeah. So today we're jumping back into Neon Genesis Evagelion. We took a brief break for our Christmas special. Thank you to the 5 viewers out there. We really appreciate it. But we also understand because it was like an hour and a half podcast. But as we move into the New Year holiday, if you find yourself with a little free time, why not go ahead and check it out? Because for some people it's Christmas all year round. Maybe not for us, but, we hope that you can keep that Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
Even if you're listening to this after having caught up on everything and you're going, they had a Christmas special? We did. But
yeah.
Anyways, feel free to check it out. We were both really happy with it. Tokyo Godfathers is a great movie. But... now we're back into episode 10 of Neon Genesis, The Magma Diver. And let me tell you, magma maybe isn't the best word. I would call it the lukewarm diver. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to speak for Spencer, but that's truthfully how I feel whenever I watch this episode.
Lukewarm.
And that's how I felt watching it again. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like I turned my brain off. I took very little notes just because... Not because I wasn't engaged, but I was just like, there isn't much to say about it.
We've ran into this before, where the show it has episodes that do a ton of legwork.
Yeah.
And then it'll have an episode where, a lot happens, but it's all, surface level stuff. It's like, the mech's in the lava, and, that's 10 minutes, and so it's like... There's not really anything to comment on those.
Yeah, and I mean, there were a few breadcrumbs here, which really were only that we got to see what an angel looks like before it, quote-unquote, evolves.
Yeah.
And we also got to see, or not see, but hear what the ramifications are of an angel, activating.
Yeah.
And that it could bring about what is the equivalent of the second impact again.
Yeah, no, for sure. And they also tease a little bit of Asuka's past again in this episode.
Yeah, I will say this episode is pretty good at highlighting Asuka's strengths, but also weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but before we get ahead of ourselves, I guess,
Well, let's get into the ratings. What would you give it?
Anyways, on our shortest episode of the podcast ever, truthfully, I can see this one being a shorter episode. Not out of any other reason than that's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, I will say, this episode starts out kind of nice because you get to see normal life amongst the characters, like they're going out shopping. Asuka, of course, is trying to seduce the guy 20 years older than her.
Yeah, she's back to her ways of seducing Kaji too. I don't know what her end goal is there, but
I feel like Asuka kind of hints at this idea that she wants to be older than she really is.
Yes.
And her attraction to Kaji is the same way she interacts with Masato, where she goes, look, like in her first introduction, she goes, look, Masato, I've filled out. And Masato goes, uh-huh. Anyways.
uh-huh. I know, I just facepalm thinking about that. I mean,
yeah.
I love her character, but this is one of the things that, I mean, it's true to her form.
Yeah.
This whole scene, but I agree. She is like, she definitely wants to be older than she is.
Yeah, and I think that manifests itself in a few ways of not wanting to be passed up by her peers, because I think she wants to, in a way, really establish, hey, I may be this age, but at least I'm not like them. Except pretty much at every turn, she's had to get either rescued or backed up, or has been pretty much on par with the other two, characters, Shinji and Rei, who are her direct competition.
This episode does a couple weird things where they really start hitting on the idea that, like, Asuka's this hot piece of ass.
Yeah.
And I guess I just have some issue with that because she's like 14.
Yeah, and I almost I guess in the times I've watched this, there is a very obvious attempt at sexualizing, but it is also weird because Asuka seeks that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels natural only because she brings it on herself.
Yeah, and is almost pining for that kind of affection and attention, but
right.
For viewers like us, we're both just kind of like, you are 15.
Right. And I mean, like, we've seen Rei pretty much naked. We've seen Shinji in a female plug suit, so we know what's going on there.
Amen, brother.
But those situations were both very different. Like, the situation with Rei was very, like,
awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some different emotions happening there. It was very
mainly like Shinji was embarrassed because, oh my gosh, this is a naked girl, whereas Rei was kind of like, whatever.
Well, she doesn't even know that she exists. She's a clone. So.
You keep running with it, buddy.
I'm going to.
But yeah, Rei was just kind of unfazed, whereas you look at Asuka and she'll constantly call out Shinji and go, "Don't be looking at my boobs," or
right.
Don't look at me like that, you pervert. And
right. And it's just like we were saying earlier. It's not even that. It's like she's flaunting it and then, batting an eyelash at them for doing that, only to get the attention on her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's like, you kind of see that too at the pool,
right.
Where it's kind of like those shitty comments where they're like, she knows what she's doing. But in this circumstance, she very fully knows what she's doing.
Yes.
And kind of like, oh, does that make you uncomfortable, Shinji?
Well, even Kaji at the beginning would question her buying like a 2-piece swimsuit like that, like kind of a sexy swimsuit. He was like, are you sure that you should be buying that? She's like, of course, I'm Miss Thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, it's just very... I mean, I know we both kind of set out on this episode saying it's lukewarm. There are some good, like, merits to this episode. And I think you hit the nail on it, Spencer, that, this is a very Asuka-centric episode in that she is very much the focal point. And in doing that, what we're talking about is kind of the, when she's front and center, we get a really good perspective at kind of the highs and lows of her character. Not that she isn't well written, but you kind of see the, something's off there.
Yeah.
And it becomes really noticeable in this episode in particular.
Right, and I think it's tugging on Shinji's heartstrings because I think he's got a thing for both the Eva pilots at this point.
Yeah.
It's almost, I don't want to say he's forgotten about Rei now that Asuka's there, but Asuka's really trying to push herself on Shinji, even if she wouldn't admit it.
Yeah.
She wants that attention really desperately, and she hates that Rei is even part of the program at all.
Yeah, not to foreshadow too much, but this episode and then episode 11 really illustrate that Asuka does not like Rei.
Right.
At all. You see it in episode 9 when they're doing the dancing thing and Rei nails it right off the bat with Shinji. And so then, and of course Asuka's like, well, she sucks and I don't.
Right.
And then Shinji's like, that's the whole point. Or, that's the whole point.
Nice.
I was really trying, but that kind of focal point is hinted at in episode 9. Not hinted, I mean kind of just said. But this episode...
Nothing's hinted at with Asuka.
No, that's a good point. It's really just kind of out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, following this, episode 9, 10 doesn't really dwell on it because it focuses on Asuka, but 11 drives that point back home. Mm-hmm. I realize I'm talking about that. That's not this episode. But just to illustrate, there is a bit of method to the madness in episodes 9 through 11.
Yeah.
In the same way that, obviously, they were a little bit more poignant, but Rei 1, Rei 2, in the episodes involving her and Shinji, I think this is very much in that same vein.
Yeah. But there's one thing that I want to talk about with the pool scene.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of dialogue that Asuka has.
Yeah.
So Shinji's really struggling with his homework.
Mm-hmm.
This episode starts to bring up this idea that they're all failing in school.
as they're all saving the world from imminent doom.
Yeah. So Shinji's absolutely failing his homework, and so is Asuka. But Asuka already has a college degree in Germany that she's kind of been hiding the whole time. And
yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I know how to do it. I just can't read Japanese." And you're like, "Wait, yeah, that makes sense. What the hell?"
and you would also have to wonder too, with Nerve and all of their resources, they couldn't get a translator, or they couldn't tell them Rei knows perfect Japanese, and I guarantee Asuka would have it memorized.
Oh, she would.
Week's end.
So she says this thing to him. So Shinji has this, I don't know.
It's trigonometry.
Yeah.
Or no, heat.
Yeah, it's talking about heat, so it must be some sort of science.
It's no, because I made note of it. Thermal expansion.
Thermal expansion. So Asuka has a line where she says, "I wonder if my breasts would get bigger if I warmed them up."
Yeah, I think she says something similar in my dub. I just didn't write it down because I was just kind of like...
That's just the most on-the-nose foreshadowing for this episode.
It is.
It's kind of the only time that there's good foreshadowing, and then there's kind of lazy foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And this feels like it was a little bit lazy.
I will say, though, the callback they make to it on 2 counts. Yeah. Very good.
No, yeah. They do nail it.
They nail it, but yeah, it's kind of
But at what cost?
Yeah. I always just not just with Asuka, but I know we joke about Masato and Ritsuko and we're like, oh, they're babes, but I think it's a bit different because they aren't 15-year-old Eva pilots, but when the show intentionally brings into these episodes moments of kind of hypersexuality amongst these 3 children, I just find myself kind of going oh,
right.
Oh, no.
Well, I crunched some numbers because this was on the same thing that you're talking about was on my mind.
Yeah.
I kind of figured out that Kaji, Ritsuko, Masato, they're all in their late 20s.
Yeah.
Because Kaji mentions in the very first scene that it's been however many years since I was in junior high, and I kind of did the math, and so he'd be around 29ish.
Yeah.
And I bet you he's maybe. Ritsuko might be a little bit older than him.
She's probably early 30s.
Yeah, and Masato I'd say is a little bit younger than him.
Probably 26.
Yeah.
27.
Yeah, right about our age, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm just spitballing. You crunched the numbers,
But that gives a little bit of perspective, at least.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, you can kind of guess that, but it's sort of up in the air until now.
Well, and it's also interesting, too, that that's the case because, sure, they're older, But in that kind of scenario, they're not much older, which really kind of adds, I think, a nice level of perspective to the world that is, Tokyo 3, Nerve, and kind of how they operate.
Well, yeah. Like, I'd be really curious to go back on episodes, or if anybody knows, to let us know, but if Ritsuko or Masato ever mentioned how long they've been working at Nerve.
Yeah.
Because if they're in their late 20s or, around that age.
Well, and they said that Masato's the youngest, captain, or, youngest general to ever head anything. And so the fact that she's in charge of Nerve makes me wonder, okay, what were the years leading up to that? How do you put someone in that position who's that young?
Right. I mean, you can't go too far because 15 years ago was the second impact.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even so, that would mean that they probably would have come into the program right out of school.
Yeah.
And have worked their way up super fast to be in high-ranking positions. Both being women is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of a militaristic organization. It's not to be expected in the 90s that they would put...
You can hate Gendo all you want, but at least he is promoting more female generals.
Yes.
Gender equality, baby. That's what we're here for.
More female generals.
More female scientists. Mad scientists. I mean, when you make fighting robots, I'd say that's mad scientist category.
Is it really mad? Or is humanity mad?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B. But that's a good point. I didn't really think about the ages of the other characters. I just know that they specifically say the ages of these kids because you can only be... It might not even be 15. I think it's 14. You can only be that age to pilot the Eva. And that's a factor. And so, when you have Asuka going, I wonder if I squeeze my boobs if they'll get warmer. It's you know.
Well, it's great if you're 13.
Yeah. But also, I'm if you're 13 and you're watching this, are you okay?
Yeah, you've got a little bit of depression.
Go watch I don't know, Sword Art Online, where the stakes are very low.
You could watch Fairly Odd Parents, because that's a show about a kid that has to be a certain age.
You're right.
To do a certain thing.
You're right. That's true.
And I'm sure they had a mech episode.
They did, actually. They did. And then they had that cool movie where it was...
Drake Bell?
No. Well, maybe, but it was the one where he jumped between a bunch of channels.
Oh, not the live action one.
No.
Okay.
I didn't even know that was full live action.
They made a live action one with Drake Bell as Timmy.
They probably held him at gunpoint for that.
Don't watch it.
I'm gonna watch it now.
Okay, we'll review it.
I need to see it. That'll be the Valentine's Day special.
Dude, I love Fairly Odd Parents.
Fairly Odd Parents is top notch. We got Chip Skylark, the Crimson Chin.
The Crimson Chin.
The Negative Chin. We got Dugsdale Dimmadome, home of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. We got Escalator World.
Dinkelberg.
Yeah, we got Dinkelberg. We got Icky Vicky. We got... honestly, the animated movie they did was super cool because... all of the different channels he jumped in, the last one was a speed racer themed one.
Yeah.
I just remember going bananas for that.
Do you remember the theme song?
I mean, I know it, but if you were going to ask me to sing all the words, I don't think I could do it. Can you?
I think so.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. On the spot's a little bit. I put myself in this situation.
I was going to say, look, you can withdraw. I won't hold you to it.
Okay. Obtuse rubber goose green moose pop guava juice.
Giant shake. Birthday cake.
Large
fries.
Giant. Is it giant snake? Giant snake.
Birthday cake.
Large fries. Chocolate shake. See, we totally knew it.
Fairly Odd Parents. Fairly Odd Parents. Fairly Odd Parents.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, I forgot about the That's So Raven crossover episode. The one with Jimmy Neutron was great.
Oh, Jimmy Neutron's another amazing show.
I think it says a lot if we're talking about other shows and not this episode. And truthfully, I it's not that bad. But
no, it's not that bad.
But I think we're just kind of, You know
what, though? But hopping from episode 9 into this episode...
bit of a bummer.
You can tell that there's a little bit of a dip.
Yeah, mainly because episode 9 ends on such a good high note. And it really does feel like that episode does a really straightforward job of illustrating Shinji and Asuka's differences, like teaching them to work together, gives little breadcrumbs about Asuka's past.
Yeah.
And then it ends with a super dope robot fight. And this one, it's almost like it's kind of repeating the same ideas, like, you know, Asuka has to prove herself, you know, like...
Yeah, it's just a kind of a one-off episode with the current cast of characters.
Yeah.
And it feels that way.
Yeah, well, so after the pool scene, they basically are identifying that inside this volcano, there is a dormant angel. And they're kind of debating, do we try and capture it before it, like, shifts, or do we kill it? What do we do? Like, you know, and the stakes are high, because if, and I think I understood this right, if they mess up, that angel shifting could cause like another second impact.
Yeah, that's the idea, and so it sort of plays with the idea that this isn't the first time they've had basically this exact scenario in the past, and they screwed it up last time horribly, and now they're where they are, so they don't want to screw it up again, but they can't pass up the opportunity to succeed and
potentially study angels, how they work, what their makeup is. And that's because it cuts to Gendo talking to the round table. I
love that. I love those scenes. They're so cool.
Well, and so basically he's pitching the idea of, hey guys, I think we should do it because we have a lot to gain, and if we can't, we kill it. And that's it. You know, that's a done deal. And they're like, that is too risky. You know what happened last time. You know, we're not going to take the fall for this if you screw up. And he was like, you know, so be it. You know, you guys can be on standby, and if we do screw up, knock the whole thing out. And they're and then they kind of secede, and they're like, okay, well, hey, if Nerve's going to take the fall for it, let him.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah. It's high risk, high reward.
And so that scene ends, and then it cuts to Masato at the like research observatory that is taking a look into the volcano. She forces the probe to keep going down, 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 and sure enough, they get a look at what essentially kind of comes out to be a, you know, like how babies look in ultrasounds?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it looks, but albeit not like a human, it looks, you know...
It's like a weird black hole.
Yeah, but pretty much Masato confirms it, they find it, and then the plan gets sprung into action to send an Eva unit down there.
She ruins like $1 billion of research on this machine.
Yeah, she's like, who cares? Like, Nerve will pay for it. And then it is interesting too, because as soon as the probe blows up and she realizes it is an angel, she goes, this area is now under Nerve control. No contacts to the outside world. Everything is now top secret and classified. I will kill you if I find out you leaked this info.
Right.
And then she steps outside and is simply just reporting, and the guy on the other line is like, hey, you're not even using a secure line right now. And she goes, I know, but it's important. We have to, you know, jump on this quick. So sure enough, the call goes out to the Eva pilots, and who else would jump at the chance to prove themselves than Asuka.
Yeah.
And yeah, she pretty much accepts the role of being dropped into a live volcano to capture an angel.
Yeah, she jumps at the chance to be the solo.
Yeah, because you know she wants a moment where she can prove herself and say, "Yep, I did that." And we're not even being facetious. That's exactly what she says.
Yeah,
she's like,
I wrote a quote in here. She says, "I'll do it if it means it will stop the first."
Yeah.
So essentially Ray volunteers, and she's like, "No.
No. I'm gonna be the one."
Yes.
And I will say, Asuka somewhat regrets that decision though, after figuring out what it means for her plug suit and her Eva unit.
Yeah.
Major Willy Wonka vibes.
Right. Violent, you're turning violent.
And then, okay, we'll roll you home. So Asuka puts on her plug suit, she's like, it doesn't feel much different. And then Ritsuko goes, yeah, hit the little right wristwatch. And so she does, and just inflates. And she goes, oh no, I'm ugly.
She's like super embarrassed because like Kaji
Yeah,
sees her in
she
it.
rolls out and Kaji goes, "Hey, loving the look," and she goes, "Oh no, I can't," and then looks at her Eva 2 unit wearing this like bulky anti-magma gear and goes, "No, what did they do to you?" And it kind of goes on for like 5 minutes where she is just constantly going, "No," and then she starts making fun of Shinji because like Shinji goes, "I don't think it's that bad," and she goes, "Shut up," and starts to freak out. But pretty much the whole point of this is to show that it's not even to Asuka about the sole idea of winning or being triumphant or coming out on top amongst her peers. She wants to do all of that, but also wants to do it on her terms. And her terms are, I want to look cool, I want to do cool stuff, you know. And if anything gets in the way of that, it's not the same.
Right. Well, like, I don't really know her backstory at all because the show purposely hasn't told us yet.
Yeah.
But...
Well, buckle up.
Yeah. Well, you almost get this idea that she doesn't really give a shit about defeating the angels.
Yeah.
She knows that's her objective, so
Yeah.
she wants to do that. But she doesn't really give a shit about that.
No.
She cares about being the person that defeated the angels.
Yep. And truthfully, that is a very solid summary of just her whole outlook on being an Eva pilot and also just her regular, you know, like way that she carries herself. I will say though, so, you know, Asuka's complaining about the big plug suit, her Ava's covered in armor, and then it cuts to this like shot of the mountainside where Nerve is set up. You see these Black Hawk jets flying in, you know, surveying the area. And then Kaji's in a mountain cable car talking with some random woman.
Yeah.
And is basically saying like, hey, this was out of my hands. I couldn't talk him out of it. But, you know, I think I'm getting real close to figuring out what's going on here. Or something in those lines. And that's the first time for me I was like, when I've watched it before, I was like, huh, Kaji, what do you mean by that, brother?
Yeah, you know, it's almost like he's playing a couple sides of this whole thing too.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when you first meet him, you sort of believe that he's on the same level as like a Masato type character.
Yeah.
But then you realize, oh no, he's actually he's higher than that.
Yeah.
In as far as Gendo's trust goes.
Yeah.
So now we learn that he's even maybe playing some of those, you know, some other players in that circle of Gendo's goons that are in those meetings. Maybe he has another contact that he works for as well.
Totally. Well, and that's what makes it, in my eyes, like really interesting because that's the first time they even plant that seed for the viewer.
Yeah.
And, you know, it basically is just kind of him saying like, yeah, you know, I'm getting close, but honestly, you know, even I couldn't stop this. And kind of like you're saying, that really not tips the hat to, you know, Kaji is a high up guy, but it also makes you wonder what he's up to. And I loved the scene after that because Shinji goes, wow, what's with all these jets? And I think it's Asuka or Misato who goes, oh, they're here to blow us up if we fail.
Yeah,
they're gonna nuke the shit out of this entire area if we fuck up. And Shinji goes, oh.
Yeah, he's like, oh, my dad said to just kill everybody here, including me. For this, oh yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that sounds. My dad did that. Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yep. Thanks, Papa.
But that's a big deal.
Yeah, that shows, I think, a few things. The sentiment of those guys on the military boat from episode 8.
Yeah.
Is very much, I think, not an isolated viewpoint of Nerve.
Yeah.
I think that as a whole, Nerve kind of operates with lots of authority and little oversight, whereas everyone around them, who they constantly are kind of stepping on the toes of to get things done, have to abide by a regular set of rules and playbooks. And so it almost feels like, you know, of course the Air Force is jumping at the chance, and so is the UN, to, you know, like, oh, did Nerve screw up? Yeah, Nerve screwed up. We knew they were bad, so yeah, we blew them up. We knew they sucked. So.
We blew them up.
Anyways, bye Nerve, and yeah, that is a huge deal. And I felt similar to Shinji, where I'm like, huh, Okay.
I know, it's funny, like, Shinji wasn't like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? He's just like, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, he's shit. Yeah. Okay.
Well, again?
Hope we win. So then, Asuka gets lowered into the magma.
Yeah. Essentially we have a few minutes here of her being lowered in the magma, people kind of asking her how she's doing. She's like, it's fucking hot in here.
And then they hit the level where they were going to cut off the mission, and Misato goes, send her down lower.
I know.
And Asuka, of course, is like, yeah, no, send me lower. I don't care. Like, I want to get the mission done.
Yeah. Well, like, her suit kind of starts, like, there's some leaks that start happening. Like, the suit wasn't meant to be at that pressure.
There's some cracks. There's some, coolant failure, low. And, as she keeps getting lower and lower, those warnings increase. And she also drops her knife, which is going to be a bit of a problem here. So they keep going lower and lower. Yeah. And sure enough, she finds the angel.
She finds the angel and successfully captures it.
Yeah, first try.
I was like, once again, Asuka coming in, absolutely slaying. Like, the last episode where she just did, like, a front flip and sliced the angel in half. It obviously didn't work, but, like, at the same time...
Still cool.
She's effective at what she does.
Totally.
There's no doubts there. I actually kind of... The magma looks super weird. It just looks like orange water.
Yeah, it just looks like red water.
And then I'm like, but how are you supposed to animate that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough because it has to be translucent so that way you can see what's happening.
Yeah.
But also the characters are going, I can't see a thing.
I know.
And I'm like, look around maybe.
I know. And like the pictures of the angel are just a shadow.
Yeah.
I will say I enjoyed that scene of her in the lava because you get to see Asuka when she's not around other people.
Yeah.
And like unless she presses the comms and talks, then nobody can hear her. And you kind of hear her monologue, like her thoughts on if she's scared or all that kind of stuff. And you got to see her on a personal, unguarded level for the first time. And I enjoyed seeing that. I kind of felt more relatable to her, seeing her like this. As shit started to go wrong and she could die, she kind of like wrestled with it.
Yeah.
And didn't care.
Yeah, because, and to I guess build on that, so what ends up happening is she catches the angel, starts to get raised up.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're watching at home, you can guess where this is going next. Oh no, the angel's waking up. And so, Asuka has to let go, and as she is moving up, it transforms into this manta ray, but she has no way to fight it. She doesn't have a knife or anything in that realm to really fight back with, and things start to get a little bit dicey.
Yeah.
Because, Shinji steps in, throws her his knife. She tries to stab it, but Ritsuka raises a good point that And this is interesting about the the angels, I guess, too, that the place in which they shift, the molecular density affects how they transform. So it also has to make me wonder with the past angels, what environment did they wake up in?
Right.
That led them to adapt to that.
Like our rhombus on its axis.
Yeah. What situation was like, you get a giant drill and a laser and you're a rhombus.
I know.
Very interesting, but it is cool though. So Asuka tries to stab the angel because the angel's been swimming around, kind of kicking the shit out of her, and then it tries to alien suck her face of her Eva. Tries to stab it. Its shell is too hard because it, shifted in magma.
Well, it's used to this environment.
Yeah.
It's impenetrable, essentially.
And so then, Shinji hears that Asuka's arm, like, cufflink has broken and the coolant is leaking.
Uh-huh.
And so then he goes, thermal expansion. And Asuka goes, oh, that's right. Punches the angel in the mouth and tells Misato to throw all of the coolant out into that one leak.
Yeah.
Which is just, honestly, a very cool, like, quick-witted plan. But, that makes the shell soften. She stabs it, kills the angel.
Yeah.
But alas, the cable, it breaks.
Right.
And she foils.
I guess like the idea is that the swords and the stuff that they use that seem like just this crazy technology are these like insanely superheated swords that can cut through anything.
Yeah.
And then it's perfect foil for them that they have this angel that is bred in this lava environment that heat is nothing compared to what it's been raised in.
Totally.
And so I do like it does track how they defeat this angel.
And it makes perfect sense. And of course it's the callback I mentioned earlier to when, Asuka's helping Shinji with his homework and she goes, thermal expansion. And so of course that ends up being the way they kill the angel.
Right.
And Asuka kind of looks up at the broken cable after and goes, well, this is it.
Yes, this is a good scene.
And kind of just takes it at face value and goes, you know what? All right.
I know, she's kind of bummed that she didn't get to go out where, like, everybody could see her go out in this epic fashion.
Yeah.
But she's kind of like, well, I'm still cooler than them, so...
Yeah. But, sure enough, Shinji steps up to the plate, dives into Magma, and grabs her just in the nick of time.
Yeah,
and,
which is really bold for Shinji.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, he is our main man, so we do know that he's super brave when he needs to be.
Yep.
But I don't think she kind of treats him like dog shit.
Yeah.
She constantly questions his manhood, constantly questions all this stuff. So I think when he reaches down to save her, it really catches her off guard.
Yeah, because she's like, wow, okay, thanks. Thanks, Shinji, wow.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that, honestly, cool scene. And then it cuts to the fabled hot springs that... Because Misato basically tells Asuka as she's being lowered into the magma, hey, there are some great hot springs. When we finish this, I'll take you there and you can get nice and refreshed.
Right.
And
I'm kind of like, why would you pick hot springs? I want like a Antarctica trip or something.
And in my dub, a few lines later, she goes, oh, I just want to take a cold shower.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I would not want to even go near anything hot.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think that we set this up. One of the points at the beginning, and I didn't even take a note, but one of the points at the beginning is that Asuka's really excited to go on a school field trip to Okinawa.
Yes.
And it gets canceled because they have this mission.
It doesn't get canceled. Everyone else gets to go.
Well, yeah, it's canceled for
the
them.
Eva pilots, yeah.
And so she's really pissed about that. That was why she bought the swimsuit.
Yeah, well...
So the trade-off was that they can go to the hot springs.
Which, frankly, good trade-off.
Yeah.
Minus the whole magma bit. But
right.
So after a successful mission, Shinji saves Asuka.
Yep.
They have to go to the hot spring.
Shinji and Pen Pen are in one
Shinji
side.
and Pen Pen are just kind of vibing, hanging out. And then Misato goes, Shinji, can you toss over the shampoo or like the body wash? And he goes, sure. And then Asuka goes, yeah, we ran out. And so he tosses it over, and it hits Asuka in the head, and she's like, ow, dummy, that really hurt. And then Misato goes, oh, I dropped it. And
I know.
I'm really curious how your dub did it. Cause
it's the exact same. They start going through this like fun, playful, like girls night.
And Asuka's like, oh, careful, Misato. Those are my private parts. And Misato goes, oh, wow. And
I know. They just like
It's
horrible, but kind of funny at the same time.
Because it then cuts to Shinji, whose face is getting bright red as he's going, wow.
I know. He's just imagining what could possibly be happening over there.
Well, and then it cuts to Pen Pen. And Pen Pen's like, And then Shinji looks down and goes, thermal expansion.
So amazing.
Which in my eyes, phenomenal callback. I thought that was a great way to end the episode on a light note.
No, it really is. And I mean, it's weird to end this episode with like a Hot Springs gone sexual.
Yeah.
But somehow it like wasn't crazy for this episode. This episode was very sexual right from the beginning.
Well, and it does end with kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger breadcrumb type moment because
it does.
Asuka looks at Misato and they're both, hot spring chilling and goes, "Oh, like your scars or something like that." Misato goes, "Yeah, I saw yours too." And Asuka goes, "You know about those?" And Misato goes, "Yeah, it's my job to know."
Right.
And then they both just kind of like let that sit, and then it cuts to them looking at the sunset, and end scene.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't just enough for them to once again tease Asuka's past.
Yeah.
But now we have a teaser of Masato's past.
Yep.
Because you can kind of see a scar on her chest. And then she questions, exactly just like you said. Asuka's like, oh, you know about my past, pretty much.
And Masato goes, yeah, it's my job to know.
You're damn right I do.
And that just lends even more credence, I think, to the viewer of like, all right, out with it. What happened with Asuka?
I know. It's like, goddamn, let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
To it.
Well, speaking of getting to it, I mean that kind of summarizes the episode for me.
That's it.
But okay, what's your rating on this?
Okay, I'm giving this episode a 7 out of 10 max.
Okay.
It's like there's some good parts in there.
Yeah.
There's enough fun breadcrumbs. Like the main thing that I think you can get from this episode is that they mentioned that if this goes wrong, this could be another second impact, which means that the second impact originally. Well, yes, not only that the stakes are high, but that tells me that the original second impact was an offensive mission to capture an angel gone wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that lends credence to a couple theories, right off the rip.
Right off the rip.
When we started this podcast, a lot of my theories were that, well, maybe humanity was afraid of these angels or, didn't know enough about them, so they went on the offensive against them, and now that's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that this kind of lends credence to that. So I was satisfied with the breadcrumbs that this gave me, but once again, it's another Neon Genesis episode that gives you more questions than answers.
Yeah, my review, I'd probably give it a 6.5 max out of 10. I think that when you, and this is, I guess, purely coming from my standpoint, when you look at the entire series as a whole, it's not that this episode's bad. Does a lot of things right, and I think, has its merits where it counts. But I don't know. The sexualization stuff is a bit weird to me, and I just never really find myself going like, yes, episode 10. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. That stuff is hard for me to look past, and this episode is decent, and that speaks to how good the show is overall. Yeah. That I feel like this was a pretty weak episode, and it was still like fun to watch.
And yet we still had plenty to talk about, which is cool too. So
right.
Yeah, so that's what I'd give it. So Spence gave it a 7, I gave it a 6.5, and we'd love to hear what you would give it down in the comments below. And I think that about wraps it up. This has been HiroBabble episode 10, Magma Diver.
Magma Diver. And once again, I just want to let everybody know, you can reach out to us a multitude of ways. You can reach out to us on Facebook, any comment on any of our posts. Happy to respond to you guys.
Yeah.
YouTube comments. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We're happy to read that on the show. You can also email us at HiroBabble@gmail.com.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's other ways too.
Yeah, but I mean, those are probably the most direct ways to make it happen. And truly, we'd love to hear from you. Whether it's, disagreeing with us, agreeing with us, thoughts on the show, thoughts on an episode, or you just want to say, hey, leave us a comment wherever it's most convenient for you. But until then, I'm Michael.
And I'm Spexo.
and we will see you back on the HiroBabble podcast for episode 11. Bye-bye.